Number: for 3,000 years, humanity slept until someone dared wake the beast. The great library of the Vethkai Dominion stretched for miles beneath the surface of their homeworld. Millions of data crystals lined the walls, each one holding the memories of civilizations long dead and empires long forgotten. Most scholars spent their entire lives studying just one small section. But Kethries was not like most scholars. He was young by Vethkai standards, barely 200 years old. His scales had not yet turned the deep purple of wisdom. His eyes still held the curious fire that older scholars learned to hide. And on this particular night cycle, that fire had led him somewhere he should not have gone. The restricted section. Kethries held his breath as he pressed his palm against the ancient scanner. He had spent 3 years earning the trust of the archive keepers. 3 years of perfect behavior, boring research, and careful questions. All for this moment. The door opened with a soft hiss. Inside, the air tasted different. Older. The data crystals here were not the bright blue of normal records. They were black, shot through with veins of red. Warning colors, danger colors. Kethries walked slowly down the rows, reading the labels carved into the crystal holders. Most were familiar enough. The burning of Nexus 7, the Plague Wars, the Machine Uprising, dark chapters in galactic history, but known ones. Then he found a section with no labels at all. The crystals here were different. They were not just black and red. They were wrapped in chains of pure starlight, the kind of binding that required 10 master scholars working together. Whatever was stored here, someone very powerful had wanted it forgotten. Kethries knew he should turn back. He knew that breaking these seals would end his career, maybe his life, but his hands were already moving, already pressing the sequence he had stolen from the head archivist's private files. The chains dissolved. He picked up the first crystal and slotted it into his reader. For a long moment, nothing happened. Then, images began to flow. Ships. Thousands of ships, but not like any design he recognized. They were ugly things, all sharp angles and brutal efficiency. No grace, no art, just pure function. They moved through space like predators, fast and hungry. Then he saw what they were fighting. A Concord battle fleet. The finest warships of 12 species, armed with weapons that could crack planets. The pride of galactic civilization. The ugly ships tore through them like paper. Kethries watched in growing horror as the battle unfolded. The Concord ships tried to maintain formation, tried to follow proper combat doctrine. But the enemy refused to cooperate. They attacked from impossible angles. They rammed their own damaged vessels into Concord carriers. They used asteroids as weapons, planets as shields, and they kept coming. No matter how many fell, more appeared. The crystal's narration was dry, clinical, a military report from 3,000 years ago. But the words burned into Kethries' mind. Species designation, human, origin, sol system, third planet, threat assessment, extinction level. He reached for another crystal, then another. Each one added to the picture, and the picture was terrifying. Humans had appeared from nowhere. One day the galaxy was at peace. The next, these strange creatures were everywhere. They expanded faster than any species in recorded history. They learned faster. They adapted faster. Where other races took centuries to master new technology, humans did it in decades. And when the conquered tried to slow them down, to contain them to their small corner of the galaxy, the humans had not negotiated. They had attacked. The war lasted 40 years. 40 years of horror. The humans did not fight like civilized beings. They used tricks and traps. They poisoned worlds. They turned the Concord's own weapons against them. They recruited other species to their cause, promising freedom and equality. Worst of all, they learned from every defeat. Kill 1,000 humans, and the next 1,000 would know exactly how to avoid the same fate, destroy their ships, and the next generation would be twice as strong. They treated death as a lesson, not a tragedy. By the war's end, the Concord had lost half its territory. Its great fleets were broken. Its people lived in fear of a species that had existed for barely a moment in galactic time. And then, somehow, the war stopped. Kethries found the crystal that explained why. His hands trembled as he activated it. The recording showed a vast chamber. On one side sat the leaders of the Concord, 12 species represented by their greatest minds. On the other side sat a single human. She was small, this human, smaller than a Vethkai child. Her skin was a strange brown color, her hair white with age. She looked fragile, breakable, but when she spoke, everyone listened. "You cannot win this war," she said. Her voice was calm, almost gentle. "You know this. We know this. In another 50 years, we will control the entire Orion arm. In 100, we will be knocking on the doors of your homeworlds." None of the Concord leaders argued. They could not. The numbers were clear. "But we do not want that." The human continued. "We are tired, counselors, tired of war, tired of watching our children die in the cold dark between stars. We want peace." Hope flickered in the Concord leaders' eyes. Kethries could see them thinking, calculating. Perhaps they could buy time. Perhaps they could find a weakness. The human smiled, as if she could read their thoughts. "We know what you are planning. You think that if you stall long enough, you will find a way to destroy us. A plague, a weapon, something." She shook her head. "You will not. We have planned for every possibility, but we also understand your fear. We are strange to you. Dangerous. You look at us and see monsters." She stood, and despite her small size, she seemed to fill the room. "So here is our offer. We will sleep. All 18 billion of us. We will seal ourselves in cryogenic chambers on our homeworld and wait. One day, perhaps, the galaxy will be ready for us. One day, you will see us as partners instead of threats. When that day comes, wake us." The Concord leaders could not believe it. It was too good to be true. There had to be a trick. "And if we never wake you?" one of them asked. The human smile did not waver. "Then we will sleep forever. But know this, counselors, if you try to kill us in our sleep, we will know, and the automated defenses we leave behind will burn your civilization to ash." This is not a threat. It is a simple fact. The deal was made. Kethries set down the crystal. His mind was racing, his heart's pounding. 3,000 years. Humanity had slept for 3,000 years, and the Conquered had done everything possible to forget they existed. But that was not the worst part. The worst part was the report he had found at the bottom of the archive. A maintenance report from the Sol system, dated just 50 years ago. The automated defense grid around Earth was failing. The power systems were degrading. In another century, maybe less, they would collapse entirely, and no one had done anything about it. Because no one knew. Because no one remembered. Kethris stood in the darkness of the Forbidden Archive and made a decision. The Concord Council needed to know. The galaxy needed to prepare. Humanity was going to wake up, one way or another, and when they did, he wanted to be ready. He gathered the crystals and walked toward the exit. Behind him, the empty shelves seemed to whisper a warning. The beast was stirring, and someone had to tell the world. Number, for 3,000 years, humanity slept until someone dared wake the beast. The Concord High Council did not believe him. Kethri stood before the 12 leaders of the galaxy and showed them everything. The crystals, the recordings, the maintenance reports. He explained the danger in simple words, in complex words, in every way he could think of. They laughed at him. "Young scholar," said the eldest counselor, a massive creature covered in crystalline growths. "You have found old war records. Interesting, perhaps, but humans are a myth, a story we tell to frighten children. They never existed. The records prove nothing. They are 3,000 years old. Probably fake. Probably created by some bored archivist with too much time." The counselor waved a hand. "Go back to your studies. Leave politics to those who understand it." Kethris was escorted out of the chamber. His career was over. His name was marked. No archive would ever hire him again. He did not care. 6 months later, he sat in the cargo hold of a rusty salvage ship called the Profit Margin. The crew was a mix of species, all of them criminals, all of them desperate. They had heard rumors of an uncharted system with valuable technology. They did not know where the rumors came from. They did not know that Kethris had spread them himself. The Sol system was supposed to be empty, deleted from all star maps, surrounded by automated weapons that would destroy any ship that came too close. But Kethris had found another report in the archives. The weapons were failing. The satellites were dying. For the first time in 3,000 years, the way to Earth was open. The profit margin dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the system. Everyone held their breath, waiting for death to rain down from the darkness. Nothing happened. The ship's captain, a scarred female of a species Kethris did not recognize, let out a long breath. Looks clear. Take us in. Nice and slow. They passed dead satellites floating in the void. Ancient machines, their lights dark, their weapons cold. Kethris felt a chill that had nothing to do with the temperature. These machines had once protected humanity from the entire galaxy. Now they were just debris. Earth appeared on the view screen, and everyone went silent. It was beautiful. Kethris had seen many worlds, but nothing like this. Blue oceans, green forests, white clouds drifting across the surface. From space, it looked like a paradise. No life signs. The ship's scanner operator reported. He sounded confused. But I am detecting power signatures. Lots of them. All over the planet. They landed in a place the old records called North America. The ship touched down in what had once been a great city, its towers still standing, its streets clean and empty. Kethris was the first one down the ramp. The air was fresh. Birds sang in the distance. Somewhere, water flowed. It was peaceful, quiet, almost dreamlike. Then he noticed the machines. Small drones floated through the streets, cleaning, repairing, maintaining. Ground vehicles moved without drivers, carrying supplies to unknown destinations. The city was empty of people, but it was not dead. It was waiting. What is this place? The captain whispered. Kethris did not answer. He was watching a drone repair a crack in the pavement, its movements precise and careful. 3,000 years. For 3,000 years, these machines had kept the city ready, as if the humans might wake up any day and walk back into their homes. The crew spread out, looking for valuables. They found technology beyond anything in the modern galaxy. Power cells that never ran out, medical devices that could regrow lost limbs, communication systems that worked across impossible distances. The captain's eyes glowed with greed. We are going to be rich. Grab everything you can carry. They made their way to the edge of the city, where a massive structure rose from the ground. A vault. Kethris had read about these cryogenic storage facilities, each one holding millions of sleeping humans. The captain wanted to go inside. More technology, she said. Better technology. The good stuff is always in the secure areas. Kethris tried to warn her. He tried to explain what they would find, but greed made her deaf, and the crew followed her through the vault's outer doors. Inside, the air was cold. Rows of pods stretched into the distance, each one glowing with soft blue light, each one holding a human body, frozen in perfect preservation. The crew stopped laughing. They stopped talking. They just stared. There are millions of them, someone whispered. Millions. Kethris walked between the rows, looking at faces frozen in sleep. Men and women, old and young. Some looked peaceful. Others looked like they had gone to sleep in the middle of a scream. Then he saw the soldiers, a separate section of the vault, marked with red warning signs. The pods here were different, larger, more heavily armored, and the humans inside were not ordinary people. They wore combat suits. Their bodies were covered in scars. Their faces, even in sleep, looked hard and dangerous. We should leave, Kethris said. Now, too late. The lights in the vault changed from blue to red. A voice echoed from every direction, speaking a language Kethris did not understand. Then it switched to standard galactic common. Unauthorized access detected. Defense protocols engaged. The crew ran for the exit. They did not make it. Walls slid open and figures stepped out. Not machines. People. Humans. Dressed in simple clothes. Carrying weapons that looked ancient but deadly. The crew raised their own weapons. The humans did not seem impressed. Drop them, said a voice. A human woman walked forward. She was old, her hair white, her skin wrinkled, but she moved like a predator, and her eyes missed nothing. Drop them now, or my people will burn you where you stand. The crew dropped their weapons. The woman studied the aliens with a cold gaze. I am Commander Adaora Okonkwo. I speak for the wakened. We are the guardians of humanity's sleep. She paused. You should not be here. Kethris stepped forward. Commander, please. I am a scholar. I came to find the truth. The galaxy has forgotten your people exist. I wanted to. The galaxy was supposed to forget. Okonkwo's voice was flat. That was the agreement. You would leave us alone. We would sleep until you were ready. 3,000 years. And the first ship to arrive is full of thieves. She looked at the crew with something like disappointment. We have watched you. You know. The wakened do not all sleep at once. Some of us stay conscious, watching, waiting. We have seen your civilization grow fat and lazy. We have seen you forget the lessons of the past. And now you come to our home, to steal from our sleeping children. The captain tried to speak. Okonkwo silenced her with a look. Here is what will happen. You will leave. You will forget this place exists. And you will pray that we never meet again. Kethris did not move. Commander, I came here to warn my people. Your defense grid is failing. Soon, others will find this place. Not thieves, but armies. The Concord has not forgotten how to hate. Okonkwo studied him for a long moment. Something changed in her eyes. You are the one who found the archives. The young scholar they called crazy. She smiled, but it was not a friendly smile. I wondered when you would arrive. She turned to her guards. Take the thieves back to their ship. Strip them of everything they stole. If they resist, kill them. Then she looked at Kethris. You stay. We have much to discuss. The guards led the crew away. Kethris stood alone with the commander in the vault of sleeping giants. Why did you really come here? Okonkwo asked. Kethris thought about the question. He thought about his ruined career, his quest for truth, his fear of what was coming. Because someone needed to, he said. Because the galaxy is not ready for you to wake up. But I think it might have to be. Okonkwo nodded slowly. Then you understand. The question is not whether humanity wakes. The question is what happens when we do. She gestured for him to follow her deeper into the vault. Come, scholar. Let me show you what 3,000 years of patience looks like. Number for 3,000 years, humanity slept until someone dared wake the beast. The galaxy burned while Kethris learned the truth about humanity. Commander Okonkwo showed him everything. The vaults where billions slept. The hidden factories where machines built weapons and ships in silence. The training programs where wakened soldiers kept their skills sharp across centuries. Humanity had not simply gone to sleep. They had prepared for the day they would wake up. We never trusted the Concord, Okonkwo explained as they walked through an underground hangar. Ships lined the walls, ancient designs updated with 3,000 years of quiet improvement. Our ancestors knew they would be forgotten. They knew the promise would be broken, so they made sure we could defend ourselves. Kethris stared at the ships. Each one was a war machine, designed for one purpose only. But you never woke up. You never fought back. We were waiting. Okonkwo's voice was patient, like a teacher explaining to a slow student. Waiting for the right moment. Waiting for humanity to heal from the last war. Waiting for the galaxy to need us. She paused, and perhaps waiting to see if you could change. Before Kethris could respond, alarms began to sound. Okonkwo's expression shifted. The patient teacher disappeared, replaced by the warrior she had always been. Communications center. Now, they ran through corridors that had been silent for centuries. Other wakened joined them, men and women of all ages, all moving with the same urgent purpose. By the time they reached the communications center, a dozen humans had gathered around a holographic display. The display showed fire, a star system Kethris recognized was under attack. The Vethkai colony of New Harmony, home to 2 billion people. Ships swarmed around it like insects, but they were no ships he had ever seen. They were organic, grown rather than built, and they moved with terrible purpose. The Vraxians, someone said. They have finally come. Kethris felt his blood freeze. The Vraxians were a nightmare from the outer dark, a species of living ships and endless hunger. They appeared without warning, consumed everything in their path, and vanished back into the void. No one had ever stopped them. No one had ever survived. How long? Okonkwo asked. They appeared 2 weeks ago. Concord response was standard defensive formation. The speaker, a young human woman, shook her head. It did not matter. The Vraxians adapted to every weapon within hours. The defensive fleet was destroyed in 3 days. More images appeared. More systems under attack. The Vraxians were not hitting one target. They were hitting everywhere at once. A wave of destruction spreading across Concord space. Kethris watched his civilization die on the holographic display. His homeworld was not yet attacked, but it was only a matter of time. The Concord's great fleets were scattering, retreating, breaking apart. We have to do something, he said. His voice cracked. "We have to help them." Okonkwo did not respond. She was watching the display with an expression Kethris could not read. Around her, the other wakened were equally silent. "You could stop this," Kethris pressed. "Your ships, your weapons. You could fight them." "We could." Okonkwo's voice was calm. "But why should we? The Concord locked us away for 3,000 years. They deleted us from history. They hoped we would die in our sleep and solve their problem forever." She turned to look at him. "And now you want us to save them?" Kethris had no answer. She was right. The Concord had betrayed humanity in every way possible. They deserved no help, no mercy, no salvation. But the people dying in those burning systems were not the Concord. They were just people. Families. Children. Beings who had never heard of humanity, who had done nothing wrong except be born in the wrong place at the wrong time. "Please," he said. "I know we do not deserve your help, but there are billions of innocent people out there. They do not even know you exist. They cannot understand what their ancestors did. Please." Okonkwo studied him for a long moment. Then she turned back to the display. "Contact the Concord High Council. Tell them we are willing to talk." 3 days later, a Concord delegation arrived at Earth. They came in the finest ship they had left, surrounded by the last of their elite guards. 12 representatives, one from each species, carrying the original treaty signed 3,000 years ago. They walked into the human vault like condemned prisoners walking to their execution. Commander Okonkwo met them in the great hall where the first deal had been made. She sat in the same chair the human negotiator had used all those centuries ago. Around her stood the wakened, silent and watchful. The Concord delegation knelt. "We come to beg," said their leader, a creature that looked like living crystal. Its voice echoed with shame. "The Vraxians are destroying us. Our weapons are useless. Our fleets are broken. We have nothing left." It held up the ancient treaty, the document that had condemned humanity to 3,000 years of sleep. "Our ancestors made a terrible mistake. They feared you so much that they chose to cage you rather than live beside you. We understand now that this was wrong. We understand that we owe you a debt that can never be repaid." Okonkwo said nothing. "We do not ask for forgiveness. We do not ask for friendship. We only ask for survival." The crystal creature's voice broke. "Please, wake your people. Fight with us. Save what is left of our civilization. In return, we will give you anything. Everything. Name your price." The hall was silent. The wakened watched their commander, waiting. Okonkwo stood. She walked slowly toward the Concord delegation, her footsteps echoing in the vast space. She stopped in front of the crystal creature and looked down at it. 3,000 years ago, my ancestors offered you peace. They offered to sleep, so that you would not have to fear them anymore. They trusted you to wake them when the time was right. Her voice was quiet, but it carried to every corner of the hall. "You never intended to keep that promise, did you?" The crystal creature did not deny it. "Our defense grid was allowed to fail. Our systems were deleted from every map. Our history was erased. If the Vraxians had not come, you would have let us sleep until our vaults crumbled, and our children died in the cold." Okonkwo's voice hardened. "And now you kneel before me and beg for the very monsters you tried to murder." For a long moment, no one spoke. Then Okonkwo smiled. It was not a kind smile. "We will help you. Not because you deserve it. Not because we owe you anything. We will help you because humanity has never been able to ignore suffering, even the suffering of those who hate us. It is our greatest weakness and our greatest strength." She turned to her people. "Wake the soldiers first, the warriors who volunteered to be ready if humanity ever needed to fight again. Begin the revival sequence for military personnel only. Civilians will remain in sleep until the war is over." Then she looked back at the Concord delegation. "You locked us away because you feared what we could do. Now you will see exactly what that is. And when this war is over, there will be a new treaty. One that humanity writes." She gestured for them to leave. "Go back to your people. Tell them help is coming. Tell them the beast they feared for 3,000 years is finally awake." The delegation fled. Kethris stayed behind, watching as the wakened began the greatest revival in human history. Across the planet, in vaults he could not see, billions of lights were changing from blue to green. Humanity was waking up, and the galaxy would never be the same. For 3,000 years, Humanity slept until someone dared wake the beast. The first human soldier opened her eyes in a chamber of ice and steel. Her name was Captain Maya Chen. The last thing she remembered was the Battle of Proxima, 3,000 years ago. She remembered her ship burning. She remembered ordering her crew to the escape pods. She remembered the cryopod closing around her like a coffin. Now she was awake, and everything had changed. The wakened told her the truth in simple words. 3,000 years of sleep. The Concorde's betrayal. The Vraxian invasion. The galaxy was dying, and humanity was its last hope. Chen listened without expression. When the briefing was done, she had only one question. When do we fight? Across Earth, millions of soldiers were asking the same thing. They woke up in bodies that felt strange, in a world they did not recognize, surrounded by faces they did not know, but they all understood one thing. There was a war to win. The human fleet launched from hidden orbital docks that had been waiting for 30 centuries. Ships that had never been seen by any living being except the wakened. Ships built for one purpose, to end threats to humanity, no matter the cost. Kethries watched them leave from the surface of Earth. He had been assigned as a liaison, a bridge between humanity and the conquered forces. In truth, he knew he was a hostage of sorts, a guarantee of good behavior. He did not mind. He wanted to see this. He needed to understand. The first battle came at the Nexus system, where 3 Vraxian hive ships were consuming a gas giant. Concorde scouts had reported that the system was lost, that no force could break through the Vraxian defenses. The human fleet arrived and proved them wrong. Kethries watched the battle recordings later, trying to understand what he was seeing. Concorde tactics were built on formation, discipline, and overwhelming firepower. Humans ignored all of that. They attacked from impossible angles. They used asteroids as missiles. They flew their damaged ships directly into Vraxian formations and detonated them like bombs. And they talked. All through the battle, the human ships talked to each other. Jokes, insults, words of encouragement. A pilot named Rodriguez sang a song as she flew her fighter into a Vraxian carrier's weak point. She was still singing when her ship exploded, taking the carrier with it. The Concorde observers were horrified. They throw their lives away, a Vethkai admiral said, his voice shaking. They die laughing. What kind of creatures are these? Kethries had no answer. He was starting to understand that no one did. A week later, he was transferred to the human flagship, a massive vessel called the Unconquered. Its commander was Admiral James Okonkwo, the great-great-grandson of Commander Adaora Okonkwo, who had led the Wakened for 600 discontinuous years. Admiral Okonkwo was not what Kethries expected. He was young, barely 40 by human standards. He smiled easily and made terrible jokes. He knew every soldier on his ship by name. He seemed nothing like the cold, hard warriors Kethries had seen in the battle recordings. Then the Vraxians attacked, and Kethries saw the other side of James Okonkwo. The assault came without warning. A swarm of Vraxian fighters emerging from faster-than-light travel directly on top of the human fleet. It was a trap, carefully planned, perfectly executed, by any reasonable calculation. The humans should have been destroyed. Admiral Okonkwo did not panic. He did not hesitate. He simply started giving orders, his voice calm and steady, as if this was exactly what he had expected. All ships, dispersion pattern Delta, fighter wings, engage and distract. Battleships, focus fire on the largest targets. And someone get me a cup of coffee. The human fleet transformed. Ships that had been moving in formation scattered like seeds in the wind, each one finding its own path through the chaos. Vraxian targeting systems, designed to track predictable movements, struggled to keep up. Kethries watched from the bridge as the Unconquered waded into the heart of the Vraxian swarm. Explosions bloomed around them, shields flickered and failed, but the ship kept moving, kept fighting, kept pushing forward. Admiral, a young officer reported, 3 of our destroyers are badly damaged. They are requesting permission to fall back. Okonkwo shook his head. Tell them to aim for the command ship. All 3 together. Sir, that is a suicide run. I know. Okonkwo's voice was soft. Ask for volunteers only, no orders. The message went out. A moment later, all 3 destroyers confirmed their course. They accelerated toward the Vraxian command ship, ignoring the weapons fire that tore through their hulls. One exploded before reaching its target. The other two did not stop. The Vraxian command ship died in a ball of fire that lit up the entire battlefield. Without coordination, the swarm fell into confusion. The human fleet finished them off in minutes. After the battle, Kethries found Admiral Okonkwo standing alone at a viewport, staring at the debris field where 3 destroyers and their crews had ceased to exist. "You sent them to die," Kethries said. He did not mean it as an accusation, but it came out that way. Okonkwo did not look at him. "I asked them to die. They chose to accept. How can you live with that? How can any of you?" The Admiral was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was tired. "Do you know what the Waken taught us when we woke up? The first thing, before tactics or strategy or technology." He finally turned to look at Kethris. "They taught us that we are not fighting for ourselves. We are fighting for the people who are still asleep, the billions of humans who trusted us to protect them, the future generations who will never be born if we fail." He looked back at the viewport. Those crews knew what they were doing. They knew that their sacrifice would save thousands of their brothers and sisters. They were not throwing their lives away. They were spending them on something worthy. Kethris did not know what to say. "Your people think we are monsters," Okonkwo continued. "They think we are death worshippers, fanatics, savages, and maybe from the outside, that is what we look like. But here is the truth, Kethris. We love life more than any species in this galaxy. We love it so much that we are willing to die for it. Not for glory, not for honor, for the simple hope that our children will have a better future than we did." He smiled, and for a moment, he looked like the young man he was. "That is what it means to be human. We are not fearless. We are terrified. We are terrified of death, of loss, of failure. But we do not let our fear stop us. We use it. We turn it into fuel, and burn it until nothing is left but forward motion." Over the following months, Kethries saw this truth proven again and again. He watched human soldiers weep over fallen comrades, then stand up and return to the fight. He watched commanders agonize over every lost life, then make the hard choices that saved thousands more. He watched medics work desperately to save wounded Vraxians, creatures that had been trying to kill them moments before. The humans were not monsters. They were something far more complicated. They were beings who had learned to hold 2 contradictory truths in their hearts at the same time: that life was precious beyond measure, and that some things were worth dying for. The Vraxians did not understand this. They could not understand it. They were creatures of pure survival, driven only by hunger and the need to consume. The concept of sacrifice was alien to them, and so, slowly, they began to lose. The human fleets pushed deeper into Vraxian territory. Systems that had been written off as lost were reclaimed. Billions of refugees were rescued from worlds the Concord had abandoned. Everywhere the humans went, they brought not just destruction, but hope. Kethries documented it all. He sent reports back to the Concord, trying to explain what he was seeing. He did not know if anyone believed him. He barely believed it himself. Humanity was winning. The beast was awake, and it was hungry. But hunger, Kethris was beginning to understand, was not the same as evil. The humans were not hungry for conquest or destruction. They were hungry for something else. They were hungry to prove that they deserved to exist, and nothing in the galaxy was going to stop them. For 3,000 years, humanity slept, until someone dared wake the beast. The Vraxian homeworld burned for 3 days. Kethries watched from the observation deck of the Unconquered, as human warships circled the massive organic planet like wolves around a wounded prey. The world that had spawned 1,000 horrors, that had consumed entire civilizations, was dying at last. It was not a clean death. Nothing about this war had been clean. Admiral Okonkwo stood beside him, his face lit by the flames below. He had aged in the past year. They all had. Victory, Kethries was learning, took something from you even when you won. "Is it over?" Kethries asked. "The war is over." Okonkwo's voice was quiet. "Now comes the hard part, the hard part." Kethris understood what he meant. For a year, humanity had fought with a single purpose. Now that purpose was gone, and 18 billion humans were about to wake up to a galaxy that still feared them. The celebration on Earth was unlike anything Kethries had ever seen. Billions of people dancing in streets they had never walked before. Children who had gone to sleep during the First War now stood as old men and women, weeping at a sky they thought they would never see again. Families reunited after 3,000 years of separation. But even in the joy, there was tension. Commander Adaora Okonkwo called a meeting of the human leadership. Kethris was invited to observe, a gesture of trust he had not expected. He sat in the corner of the great hall and watched as humanity decided its future. There were 3 factions. The first was led by a woman named Sarah Park. She spoke for the isolationists, those who wanted nothing more than to rebuild Earth and forget the galaxy existed. Her voice was tired, worn down by years of sleepless vigilance as one of the wakened. "We have done enough," she said. "We saved them. We bled for them. Now let us close our borders and heal our own wounds. We do not need the galaxy, and the galaxy does not need us." The second faction was led by Admiral James Okonkwo himself. He represented the integrationists, those who wanted humanity to take its rightful place among the stars, a seat on the conquered council, trade agreements, cultural exchange, a chance to build something new. "We cannot hide anymore," he argued. "The galaxy knows we exist. If we withdraw now, we become the monster in the dark again. Something to fear, something to hate. We must show them who we really are." The third faction was the one that frightened Kethris the most. General Marcus Stone had been a soldier in the First War, 3,000 years ago. He had gone to sleep with hatred in his heart, and he had woken up with the same hatred burning even brighter. He spoke for the militants, those who believed that humanity had been too merciful for too long. "They caged us," Stone said, his voice cold as space itself. "They tried to murder us in our sleep, and now we are supposed to forgive them? To become their friends?" He laughed, but there was no humor in it. "I say we teach them a lesson they will never forget. Let us take what is ours. Let us build an empire that will last until the stars go dark." The debate lasted for hours. Kethris listened to arguments that ranged from hopeful to horrifying. He heard humans speak of peace and humans speak of conquest. He saw tears and anger, and everything in between. Finally, Commander Okonkwo stood. The hall fell silent. Even after 3,000 years, she commanded respect that bordered on reverence. She was the last living link to the humans who had made the original bargain. Her word carried the weight of history. "I have listened to all of you," she said, "and I understand all of your fears. But I did not keep watch for 600 years so that we could become the very thing we fled from." She looked at General Stone. "Conquest is easy. Empire is easy. Any fool with a gun can build a kingdom of ashes. But that is not what our ancestors wanted. That is not why they chose to sleep instead of fight." She turned to Sarah Park. "Isolation is also easy. Building walls, hiding from problems, pretending the universe does not exist. But we tried that once. We slept for 3,000 years, and when we woke up, the problems were still there. Worse than before." Finally, she looked at her great-great-grandson. "Integration is hard. It requires trust that has been broken. It requires forgiveness that has not been earned. It requires us to become better than we have ever been." She paused. "But that is what humans do. We do the hard things. We climb the impossible mountains. We reach for the stars even when they seem too far away." She raised her voice so that everyone could hear. "Here is my decision. Humanity will not hide. Humanity will not conquer. Humanity will take its place among the stars as an equal partner, not a master or a servant. We will join the Concord, but we will write a new treaty, one that protects us from future betrayal, one that guarantees our freedom forever." General Stone started to object. Okonkwo silenced him with a look. "This is not a request. This is the will of the wakened. We kept faith for 3,000 years. We have earned the right to choose our future, and we choose hope." 2 weeks later, humanity signed a new treaty with the conquered. The ceremony took place on Earth, in the same hall where the first agreement had been made. But everything was different now. Humans sat on one side of the table as equals, not as suppliants. The Concord representatives sat on the other side, their eyes filled with a mixture of fear and gratitude. The new treaty was simple. Humanity would have a permanent seat on the Concord Council. All restrictions on human expansion were lifted. The quarantine was ended forever. In return, humanity would help defend the Concord against future threats, and would not seek revenge for the past. Commander Okonkwo signed the document with steady hands. When she was done, she looked up at the Concord representatives. 3,000 years ago, Your ancestors asked us to sleep because they were afraid of what we could do. They were right to be afraid. We are dangerous. We are adaptable. We are stubborn beyond all reason. She smiled. But we are also loyal. We are creative. We are capable of love and sacrifice and kindness that defies explanation. Your ancestors saw only the wolf. We hope you will learn to see the rest of us as well. After the ceremony, Kethris found Commander Okonkwo standing on a balcony overlooking the city. Below them, humans and aliens walked together through streets that had been empty for 3 millennia. Children played. Markets opened. Life, stubborn and beautiful, was beginning again. You could have done it, Kethris said. You could have conquered everyone. Nobody could have stopped you. Okonkwo nodded. Yes, we could have. Why did you not? She was quiet for a long moment. Then she pointed at the city below. Do you see that woman there? The one carrying the child? Kethris looked. A young human mother was walking through the market, her baby sleeping in her arms. She was laughing at something a Vethkai merchant had said. That child went to sleep 3,000 years ago, Okonkwo said. She was 2 years old. Her mother held her in the cryopod, singing her a lullaby, promising that everything would be all right when she woke up. Her voice softened. That is why we did not conquer. Because of that child. Because of all the children who trusted us to build them a future worth living in. They did not sleep so that they could wake up in an empire of blood and ashes. They slept so that they could wake up in a galaxy where they had a chance to be happy. She turned to look at Kethris. Your people locked us away because they saw us as monsters. But we were never monsters. We were just parents, trying to protect our children. We will fight. We will kill. We will do terrible things if we must. But only so that our children never have to. She looked back at the city. The galaxy woke us because it needed beasts. And we came, and we fought, and we won. But now the war is over, and we get to choose what happens next. We choose to be more than beasts. We choose to be human. Below them, the mother lifted her child and pointed at the stars. The baby reached up with tiny hands, grasping at lights that were suddenly so much closer than they had ever been. Kethris watched them for a long time. He thought about everything he had learned, everything he had seen. He thought about fear and hope, war and peace, monsters and heroes. Then he turned to Commander Okonkwo. What happens now? She smiled. It was a warm smile. The smile of a woman who had carried an impossible burden for 600 years and was finally ready to set it down. Now, we do what humans always do. We build, we grow, we reach, we make mistakes and learn from them. We fall down and get back up. We love too hard and forgive too easily, and hope even when hope makes no sense. She put a hand on his shoulder. The beast is awake, scholar. But the beast has always been more than teeth and claws. It has always been more than war and death. The beast is human, and humanity does not sleep anymore. She turned and walked back inside, leaving Kethris alone with the stars. He looked up at them, those distant lights that held so many worlds, so many stories, so many possibilities. Somewhere out there, human ships were already exploring new frontiers. Somewhere, human scientists were unlocking secrets that would change everything. Somewhere, human children were looking up at the same stars and dreaming of the future. The beast was awake, and for the first time in 3,000 years, the galaxy was not afraid. It was excited. The humans were back, and the universe would never be boring again.